Welcome back to the Amber Stitt Show. We have Scott Nelson Archer here talking about focusing on money. And we're going to focus on money and with a little more fun way to view money. And we're going to go down to the family level here. So we're going to talk about some financial literacy or lack thereof and just some fun tools to implement in the home. So Scott, welcome back. Thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So I have at this point in time, a 4-year-old, and I'm trying to develop different work habits within her chores. Might be making her bed or shredding paper, which scares my husband because of the, shredder finger combination. But yes, we've been training her. So having her realize, hey, Mom, you heard her maybe today say, I want to buy some Paw Patrol socks, and I have to tell her there's no money in the bank yet. You haven't done your chores. So we're trying to implement some of that fun, but seeing, you just can't get things for free. There's no free lunch, as they say. So going back in time for you, I love hearing you talk about your kids, and you've had some pretty unique strategies with your wife this is a while ago. So I don't know if they feel about it the same way I feel about it, but you rolled out some things, and I want to do this on the show because things can be pretty serious when we talk about money, the economy, but if we can have fun with our family and teach some responsibility, it's really up to us. If we haven't tried, to help them along their way, we can't be surprised at some of the outcome when they transition out.
Understanding the value of money is really important. And, if they just are giving money all the time and they're able to just waste it, then they don't maybe respect it as much as it should be respected.
And you're a successful business owner, and they could have whatever they want, I suppose. But you haven't made that always be a thing. But you are very gracious with the people you care about that are deserving. So I know that you are charitable sometimes in certain aspects.
Absolutely. Yeah. I always believe people, get what you deserve. And we also often think about that from a negative connotation, but I look at it from a positive connotation. Bust your tail and you work and you put in the hours and you go above and beyond, that can be rewarded in a lot of different ways. Certainly, verbal rewards are great, add a girl, add a boy, that's all good, really appreciate it. And people need that. But it's also nice as a business owner to be able to say, there's been some really good things going on in here. And, the reality is you're telling me about your life going on and your washing machine just went out. You know what? How about a new one just shows up there on Saturday for you, or your stove, or, I'm putting in a driveway, or I'm building creative. A barn, there's a lot of different ways to reward that need. So we always try to look at that. So
it's not always monetary. I know that you've helped people too. I've heard of storms and trees and leaves and neighbors. And I know that you're usually working on the weekends in some capacity, whether it's at a desk or not.
Yeah, there seems to always be a need of some nature. And my wife is, God bless her. She's got the ability to find out what that need is and make sure that we volunteer to help support.
Right. So your honeydew extends to the neighborhood sometimes.
Yes. Yeah. We keep a couple chainsaws gassed up and ready to go at all time.
But it's not just you. She's out there.
She's out there too. Yeah. And sometimes she will guilt me into it. She did this last weekend working on a project and, Scott, you don't need to do anything. It's Sunday afternoon and, you worked all day yesterday and it's all fine, but, I'm out here doing this. And I look over and I'm like, okay, I can't really sit here on my tail and, watch some TV and do nothing while she's out there. So she's
quality time.
Or master manipulator, however you want to call it.
Subtle mental tricks.
Yeah.
Ninja tricks. Yeah. Ninja tricks.
And now, a word from our sponsor. Navigating the medical disability insurance industry can be complex and overwhelming. But fear not, because help is here. Introducing MD Disability Quotes, your trusted partner in securing the right coverage for your unique needs. We understand that as a physician, protecting your medical subspecialties is of utmost importance. With over 30 years of experience working in true own occupation disability insurance contracts, our team of experts is dedicated to putting your best interests first. At MD Disability Quotes, we believe that when the unexpected happens, you deserve the exact coverage you need. That's why we go above and beyond to tailor your contracts to your specific needs with the best discounts. Say goodbye to the uncertainties and let us take some of the risks out of your life. Our team is committed to providing you with the guidance and support you need to make informed decisions. Why wait? Call or email MD Disability Quotes today to schedule a free consultation with our team of independent brokers.
Going back to some takeaways for growing families, I think there was a strategy about paying rent in a very interesting fashion. So do you mind sharing that? What you did?
Yeah, we never believed in allowance. Allowance to me kind of sounds like welfare. And, it's out there and I know it. And that's what you choose to do. That's fine. But we always believed in, if you work, you get paid. You go to work, you earn an hour's wage. You're in the sales business and you sell a car, you're going to get, a dollar amount given to you. So what we just did is all the chores that we wanted to influence the engagement, we allocate a monetary value to. Mm-hmm. So, you pick up your own plate, put it in the sink, at 4 years old, it's, worth a dime.
Oh, so even down to clearing the table.
Clearing the table, making your bed.
Interesting.
Putting, getting your laundry into the hamper if they're not old enough to, wash their own clothes. Take the dog outside and brush them, whatever, every little thing. And so what we usually did is we figured out how to allocate as much as 2 times their age in money based upon different chores. And sometimes they may need to do 15 or 20 chores to get there because, I'm not going to give you $1 for putting a cup from, the counter to the sink. But, we always made sure there was stuff to do. Sweep it out in the garage or go pick up a can full of pine cones out front. It doesn't really matter. So we did that and good or bad. And they weren't necessarily always happy with it, but we charged them rent. It was rent because we all have fixed expenses in our life, whether it's the utility bill, the food bill, a mortgage, a rent, whatever it is. You've got expenses that come out prior to you getting to spend your money. And so we wanted to instill that, there's hardcore expenses that come out no matter who you are, where you're at in life. And so you needed to earn that hurdle rate, that dollar amount, before you could move on to how can I go spend the stuff on, socks, like your daughter asked this morning, right?
I don't think my daughter's going to be happy that we had this conversation because it sounds like I'm a little lax and there should be something on the fridge. How did you keep a menu of these things so they know?
It was a whiteboard with check marks, and God bless, my wife kept up with it really well.
I don't know that my husband can keep up with this. He can barely lock the dogs in a kennel and not feel guilty. So we're going to have to work on that. But again, we've talked about being different, how that's so important. So sometimes maybe it's good that I'm a little more rigid and he's a little bit more relaxed. It could be.
There's a complementary issue there, And truthfully, we told the kids all along, yep, here's your rent. The reality is it's going to account for you. We're going to do,
Did you tell them?
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to account for you. We're going to match it. But, these are going to be for the big things. You want to do a summer abroad in college. You decide you want to buy a different car. But these are things that are going to be saved and set aside. And can't touch them. That's not, gosh, I really want a new outfit that happens to be super expensive or a new stereo system or something of that nature. That's not in play. That's what your money above and beyond the rent number was.
So Scott, those are great tips. And I feel like you've shared a couple more with me, but really I think the takeaway here is the menu and really almost associating that every time you do something good, there's a value to that. And that mental, it's almost like I refer to atomic habits a little bit, but sometimes you can't see those little tiny changes making a difference. They equate it to, say, flying on a plane. And if that measurement just changes slightly, you might end up in a different city, but it doesn't feel like that when you're going up in the air. That little change.
Yeah, the slight adjustments. And that's an analogy I often use. If you don't go in and, do periodic checks, whether it's with your family, with relationships, with business, if you take off from Miami and you're heading to Seattle and you never look at the compass, you never look at the readings, you probably end up on the West Coast, but it may not be where you want to be.
I was just listening to a podcast on the way down to Tucson. McConaughey was on one talking about his book. He talks about how if your relationships are like accounts, some of them might go into the red, and it might just have to sometimes because you're traveling, you're busy, work gets in the way, but then you have to go back and get it out of the red. Right. And a lot of times, a lot of the successful people will say it's usually the friends that might get the backseat a bit when it comes to success and having to dial into family and then business too. So that makes me think of that, paying attention to that.
Well, you have to prioritize, right? You never want to put your family second, but sometimes from a business perspective, I didn't have the ability to be at every single soccer practice or every single soccer game or gymnastics meet. I tried, but there are, business obligations I need to in order to be able to afford to be able to pay all that soccer or gymnastics meet or whatever it is. There's living life and there's paying for life, and you kind of have to have both.
I think if we talk about it, I mean, mom guilt, I don't know if there's a dad guilt, but that is probably those feelings of I wish I could, but I can't. I think a lot of people, we feel it, we don't talk about it. I think all of us go through some variation of that, but just as part of the deal, if you want to provide and have a certain lifestyle for your family.
Yeah, absolutely. You all get an idea of what you're looking for and, what you really want. What happens, I find most often, is that people don't understand then what it takes to get there, or they don't do any planning on, okay, if I want to be able to get to X, whatever that is, I want to have, 20 hours a week that just time with my family. Okay, well, what else are you doing in your life to be able to cut back on that in order to reallocate that time? If you're trying to build wealth, or you're trying to get just, certain, buy a car or a certain house, or, whatever it is, are you doing the planning to meet that goal? Otherwise, it's just an idea. It's not a plan. And you have to back into both of those.
That makes me think about when we talked in our first episode about just the consistency in the process. Then we make the money. And what do you do with that money? I know we've talked about people that want to show others their wealth. I feel that a lot of times when people are super successful, they choose where to be economical. I think you do a good job of that, and then spend where maybe you should not, but not always, and not for anyone but yourself and your family. If anything to share about maybe lessons learned of what you've seen when you look at just how the behavior of money can change people. Have you ever dealt with maybe spending something you shouldn't? Have you learned from it? Because I know you're very good with, we'll just say, being resourceful and economical. You flew Frontier.
Yeah, I do.
But I think people should have more habits that you instill versus, it's like the rich dad, poor dad analogies, but what are we doing it for? We're doing it for ultimately, maybe we're single, for yourself or your family. A lot of people do it for others and spend.
I have a tendency to kind of think money is like a poorly behaved child. Okay. It will find trouble and it will find a way out of doing what it should be doing, which is staying disciplined, staying focused and on task. And what I mean by that, if you've worked hard and you've got excess money and you're not being disciplined with the way you allocate it and the way you make it go to work for you, it will find a way to be spent on new shoes, new cars, new watches, new boats, all kinds of stuff that are fun, exciting, and enjoyable. And I get it. But if at the end of the day, what you're trying to do is, save money, build assets, and create a behavioral pattern of being disciplined with that, then you need to take that all the way to how you handle your money, because it will find a way out of your pocket if you don't find a way to control it.
Yeah. And going back to your personality type, you have to be aware of the blind spots that some of your talents can bring along for the ride so that you can manage money, looking at personality, building that consistency again. No, I think I almost like nothing good happens after midnight. I suppose that could be for a person or money, right?
Correct.
Having to go out the door. I love that analogy about money, Scott. So with the pathways, I'm always trying to find a way to bring some resilience to the obstacles that people are going to face in life. And I feel like the way you're talking about money, the way we've embraced money differently, even in the last 10 years in my household, not that we're ignoring what's going on in the economy, but we can feel less pain when we have those behaviors that you're mentioning. When you really dial it in and respect that you have the money that you've worked hard for, but then you manage it, the human behaviors that we all have, that can really help us be resilient when we hit an obstacle. And there will be obstacles. Would you agree?
100%. You'll always be facing something. And, oftentimes what I find anymore is that for us, we don't necessarily face obstacles personally. We have friends, we have family, we have employees that do. And, being disciplined, having it all set and structured in a manner that we do, it then gives us the opportunity to step in and help fix something, help save something, help just take some of the pain away. I think that's important. And it's part of the charitable side of things too.
Yeah.
You always want to make sure that you've got the ability to take care of yourself, but you don't have to be, greedy about it. You don't have to make sure that everything goes to you. There's a lot of good feeling in spending time and the resources, helping others. It's kind of the right thing to do, in my opinion.
I think it's a perfect place to end this segment. So for the audience, hopefully you'll have some takeaways there to implement in the home or have some fun with, or maybe even for your partner. We all could use a little reminder here and there to manage our money better. Every one of us do. Okay, so we're going to dive in more about money and habits and risk in our next episode. So thanks so much, Scott.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of The Amber Stitt Show. For more information about the podcast, books, articles, and more, please visit me at amberstitt.com. Until next week, enjoy your journey at home and at work. Thank you for listening.